"I can fix the hospital generator in 30 minutes, said the maintenance worker. The hospital director laughed in disbelief. A janitor fix critical medical equipment? When a maintenance worker faces the failing hospital generator and says he can fix it in 30 minutes, the emergency room's silence reveals that nobody imagines what comes next. Dr. Patricia Thornhill, the regional medical center director everyone called Dr. Ice, stood in the emergency operations center, slamming her fist on the situation desk so hard the monitors shook. "What do you mean the backup generator technician won't arrive until tomorrow morning? This is Friday evening. We have 240 patients in this hospital, 37 on life support. The main power grid just failed, and we're running on battery backups that last exactly 4 hours. People will die." The command screens showed the crisis in real time. The main city power grid, down from the storm, the hospital's primary backup generator offline with a catastrophic fuel system failure, and the secondary battery system counting down like a doomsday clock. The most optimistic estimate from the generator company said their emergency technician would arrive by morning, assuming the roads were passable after the hurricane. Patients would have to be evacuated to hospitals 60 miles away through flooded roads, risking lives with every ambulance trip. In this chaos of alarms and desperate phone calls, Miguel Santos pushed through the security checkpoint, hospital maintenance uniform damp with rain, tool bag hanging from his shoulder. Miguel was 47 but looked 60 from decades of working double shifts, maintaining ancient hospital equipment on poverty wages. His uniform was patched, his steel-toed boots were worn through, and his hands showed the scars of countless repairs in cramped mechanical spaces. But his eyes had a different gleam when they landed on the generator failure report on the screen, the gleam of someone recognizing a problem he'd fixed 100 times before. He approached the cluster of administrators and medical staff arguing around the evacuation protocols. "Excuse me, Dr. Thornhill," Miguel said in accented English, removing his maintenance cap respectfully. "I can fix the generator. 30 minutes. The fuel line is clogged with sediment from the old underground tank. I can bypass it with the emergency manual feed system. No parts needed." The silence that followed lasted 5 seconds, but felt like eternity. Then Dr. Ice turned, saw the maintenance worker in a wet uniform smelling of cleaning chemicals, and let out a laugh so cold it made the nursing supervisors stop their patient triage to watch. "Get back to mopping floors, Santos. This is critical medical infrastructure requiring certified generator technicians, not maintenance fantasies. Security, remove this man from the operations center immediately." The security guards approached, hands gesturing toward the door. Medical staff gathering for the evacuation briefing paused to watch, some shaking their heads at the audacity. Miguel didn't move, didn't lower his eyes, just held his cap with both calloused hands and kept looking at the generator schematic on the screen, as if it were speaking to him in a language only they understood. That's when the woman approached. She'd been there since the crisis began, observing from the corner with a clipboard and an unreadable expression. She wore green scrubs with no name tag, comfortable shoes, reading glasses hanging from a lanyard. She looked like just another traveling nurse or medical consultant, but there was something about her presence, a quiet authority that needed no introduction. "Let the man speak, Patricia," she said with a calm but firm voice that cut through the dismissive laughter. Dr. Thornhill turned, irritated by the interruption. "And you are?" "Karen Foster, Joint Commission Hospital Accreditation Observer. I'm here documenting your emergency response protocols for your recertification review," she said evenly, showing laminated credentials. "I strongly suggest you hear what this employee is proposing." Miguel turned to her, grateful for basic human respect. "This generator doesn't need a specialized technician, ma'am. It needs someone who knows its history. That fuel line has been problematic for 3 years. I've filed maintenance requests monthly but was told it wasn't in the budget. The sediment finally clogged it completely during the storm vibrations. But there's a manual bypass valve that connects directly to the day tank. I can open that valve, bleed the air from the fuel lines, and restart the generator. 30 minutes, maybe less." The silence returned, but transformed now. It was the silence of institutional disbelief. Dr. Thornhill took 2 steps forward, face red with condescension. 30 minutes. You've been inhaling too many cleaning fumes, Santos. Our certified generator company said only their technician can diagnose and repair this system. You're not even qualified to touch that equipment. Leave immediately, or I'll have security physically remove you and terminate your employment." But Miguel didn't look at Dr. Thornhill. He looked only at Karen, straight in her eyes, with a serenity that disarmed skepticism. "I only need my basic tools, wrenches, a fuel line kit, and access to the generator room. I owe nobody anything. I just want to help. These patients deserve to live." Those last words hung in the tense operations center air. Karen Foster, who wasn't actually Joint Commission but Dr. Elizabeth Santos, the state health commissioner conducting an anonymous hospital competency evaluation, felt something catch in her throat. Not pity, recognition. She saw in that maintenance worker something utterly absent in all the credentialed administrators, all the expensive consultants, all the emergency protocols on screens. Pure dedication born from intimate knowledge. "Give him access," Karen said, and her voice permitted no argument. Dr. Thornhill opened her mouth to protest, but the look she received from this supposed accreditation observer made her reconsider the political cost. "But if he causes any damage to that generator, you're personally liable, and I'll have both of you arrested for endangering patients," Thornhill snarled, turning to call the hospital's attorney. Miguel grabbed his tool bag and headed for the service elevator to the basement mechanical room. Karen followed, carrying a flashlight and first aid kit. They descended in silence, the sound of the storm pounding the building growing louder as they went deeper. When the elevator doors opened, the mechanical room was a maze of pipes and equipment, lit only by emergency lights. The massive generator sat silent in the corner, a 30-year-old diesel beast the size of a small bus. Miguel approached it without hesitation, running his hands over the fuel lines like greeting an old friend. Karen stayed by the doorway, watching. "How did you know about this bypass valve, Miguel?" Miguel paused, looking back at her in the red emergency lighting. "I've worked in this hospital for 23 years, ma'am. Started as night janitor when I came from El Salvador as refugee. I watched the original mechanics, asked questions, learned everything I could. When they retired, I was the only one left who understood this old equipment. I've kept this generator running with duct tape and prayers because the budget never allowed for replacement." Karen felt her chest tighten. "And why are you doing this for free? You could demand overtime, hazard pay, recognition." Miguel stopped, turned to face her fully, his weathered face serious in the flickering emergency lights. "Ma'am, when you can help, you help. This hospital saved my daughter's life when she had meningitis and we had no insurance. The doctors here never asked for money, just saved her. She's a nurse now, working upstairs in ICU. If I don't use what I know to save patients like doctors saved her, what kind of father am I? What kind of man?" Karen felt tears threatening. She stood before something increasingly rare, selfless expertise without expectation of recognition or reward. In that instant, she made a decision that would change 2 lives and potentially save hundreds. The evening storm intensified outside. Miguel was working, removing access panels, when the sound of sirens echoed down the service corridor. 2 emergency vehicles pulled into the loading dock, visible through the mechanical room's high windows. Out stepped a man in his 30s, pristine company uniform, carrying an expensive diagnostic tablet and surrounded by 2 junior technicians. "Dr. Thornhill," he shouted into his radio. "It's me, Brad Morrison from Med Generator Services. Heard about your catastrophic failure and drove through the storm from the city." Dr. Thornhill practically ran down to the loading dock like salvation had arrived in a company van. Brad adjusted his safety glasses and smiled with the confidence of someone who'd never failed because they only took guaranteed high-profit service contracts. "We're the authorized service provider for your generator model, brought our computerized diagnostic system and complete parts inventory. We can diagnose the problem tonight and have parts delivered and installed by tomorrow afternoon for our standard emergency rate of $45,000. He noticed Miguel through the mechanical room doorway, working on the generator with basic hand tools. And who's that guy touching our equipment?" Dr. Thornhill let out a nervous laugh. "Oh, that's just our maintenance worker claiming he can fix it in 30 minutes with some bypass valve. Complete fantasy, but this accreditation observer insisted we let him try." Brad looked at Miguel with the particular condescension that expensive contractors reserve for low-wage workers. "Sir, that equipment requires factory-certified technicians and proprietary diagnostic tools. You could cause permanent damage or void the warranty. This isn't fixing a lawnmower, this is life safety equipment." He gave a dismissive wave and was about to enter the mechanical room when Karen stepped forward and blocked the doorway. "Brad Morrison, is it?" Karen asked, voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. "Yes, ma'am. Lead technician for PowerMed Generator Services, factory certified on all major generator brands, 15 years of experience." "I'm the Joint Commission Observer," Karen replied. "An accreditation protocol requires observing all attempted solutions before authorizing expenditure of $45,000 in hospital resources during a financial crisis." Brad blinked, surprised. "With all due respect, ma'am, this maintenance worker doesn't have proper certification or diagnostic equipment. Look at him, using basic wrenches on a sophisticated fuel injection system. He could cause a catastrophic failure." Before anyone could respond, Brad was deploying his diagnostic equipment, connecting laptop computers to the generator's control panel, running software diagnostics. His technicians worked with corporate efficiency, and hospital staff gathering in the corridor to watch filmed the impressive display on their phones. Miguel just took a deep breath, located the manual bypass valve exactly where he knew it would be, and started working with his scarred hands and simple tools. No anger on his weathered face, just ancient sadness from seeing the same pattern repeat across 2 decades. Money confusing expensive with effective, certifications dismissing actual expertise. Karen stayed in the doorway, holding Miguel's water bottle and backup flashlight. "Aren't you going to defend your approach?" Miguel shook his head, adjusting a fuel line fitting. "Don't need to, ma'am. The generator will speak for me. Machines don't lie." For 45 minutes, Brad worked with maximum technological visibility. His team ran computer diagnostics, generated comprehensive failure reports, tested components with expensive meters. Hospital staff watched in the corridor, impressed by the professional operation. Dr. Thornhill stood beside Brad like a vindicated authority, nodding whenever Brad said something that sounded technical and expensive. "See here, Doctor. Our diagnostic software shows complete fuel system contamination, sediment in the main tank, clogged filters, degraded fuel lines. This requires full fuel system replacement, tank cleaning, new filters, new lines. Our standard emergency fuel system overhaul, $45,000, installed by tomorrow afternoon." He connected more diagnostics, generated more reports, data scrolled across screens. "Diagnosis complete and verified," Brad announced to the gathered staff and administrators. "Complete fuel system failure. Timeline, 18 hours. Cost, $45,000. We can begin work immediately upon contract signature and deposit." Karen said nothing, just watched Miguel methodically opening the bypass valve, connecting a manual fuel line from the day tank, bleeding air from the system with practiced efficiency. 18 hours, Miguel murmured, wiping fuel from his hands. 18 hours while people on ventilators die, while surgery patients can't be operated on. Karen felt something profound shift inside her. The immigrant maintenance worker understood medical urgency in ways the experts never would. "You still think you can finish in 30 minutes?" Miguel nodded, checking his work carefully. "I'm certain, ma'am, but nobody believes the janitor." That's when it happened. Brad, wanting to demonstrate even more diagnostic capability, decided to test the generator's electrical output capacity. "We'll connect our load bank tester to verify the alternator isn't damaged before authorizing fuel system work." He connected the expensive testing equipment to the generator's output terminals. But what happened next revealed everything. The load bank showed the alternator was producing perfect voltage and frequency output. It was working perfectly, just not getting fuel. Brad frowned, ran the test again. Same result. His confident expression began cracking. "This doesn't make sense," he said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "The generator's electrical systems are completely functional. If only the fuel system is affected." He checked his diagnostics. Then this might not require full replacement, just the fuel delivery repair. His face reddened. "But our service contract requires full system replacement for this type of failure code. We don't do partial repairs. Too much liability. I'm sorry, but PowerMed cannot take this job under these conditions." Dr. Thornhill's face went pale. "So we don't have a solution?" Brad shook his head, packing his expensive equipment. "Not from us. You need someone willing to do a field repair outside manufacturer protocols. That's not our business model. I'm very sorry." Within minutes, the vans were pulling away, leaving Dr. Thornhill standing in the corridor looking like a woman watching her career crumble. Miguel continued working, unhurried, bleeding the last air bubbles from the fuel lines. After another 10 minutes, he stood back, wiped his hands, and looked at Karen. "Ma'am, the system is ready. The bypass is open, fuel lines are clear, air is bled, ready to attempt restart." The silence was absolute. Dr. Thornhill stared at Miguel like seeing him for the first time as something other than invisible labor. Karen felt her pulse racing, and that's when she spoke, her voice carrying through the mechanical room with undeniable authority. "Miguel Santos, you have full authorization. Proceed with generator restart." Miguel said a quiet prayer in Spanish, crossed himself, and pressed the generator's start button. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the massive diesel engine coughed, sputtered, and roared to life with a sound like thunder. The emergency lights switched off as main power flooded back through the hospital. Overhead fluorescents flickered on, equipment hummed back to life. Throughout the building, ventilators resumed, monitors powered up, operating room lights blazed, life-saving machines continued their work. The crowd in the corridor erupted in cheers. Nurses cried with relief. Doctors ran back to their patients. The hospital was saved. Miguel shut off the bypass valve, secured his tools, and turned to find himself surrounded by grateful staff, by crying nurses, by doctors wanting to shake his hand. Dr. Thornhill stood frozen, speechless. And Karen, Elizabeth, finally revealed herself completely. She removed her fake Joint Commission badge and pulled out her real credentials as State Health Commissioner. "Patricia Thornhill, you're suspended pending investigation for gross incompetence, systematic neglect of maintenance infrastructure, and creating an environment that devalues essential workers." She turned to Miguel. "Miguel Santos, the state is mandating this hospital create a new position, Chief Facilities Engineer. Your job is overseeing all mechanical systems and teaching others your institutional knowledge. Salary, $78,000 annually, plus full benefits and recognition of your technical expertise. Will you accept?" Miguel looked at the official letter she extended, at the generator humming perfectly behind him, at the grateful staff surrounding him with tears and thanks. He fell to his knees, crying, overwhelmed. 6 months later, Miguel led the hospital's newly respected facilities department, teaching younger workers the hands-on expertise that engineering degrees didn't cover, preventing crises through knowledge computers couldn't replace. And every morning, he'd touch the old generator, feeling the warm metal vibrating with power beneath his hands, and whisper in Spanish, then English, "Thank you, God. Thank you for letting me help save lives like they saved my daughter."